Coming up, we're going to take a look at the current state of the American workforce and what it means for you and that pocketbook of yours. And then a study reveals that employee turnover, which is big right now, is preventable. We'll help you leaders figure out how to do it next. I'm here to help you win at work, which means win with that income. And so we're going to be talking about that today. And we're going to be talking about leaders and leadership because, well, it's all a part of this equation when it comes to continuity and it comes to making the amount of money that you would like to make. And so we're going to get right into this. So let's just take a quick look, and I'm going to cover several things today. Oh, Alex, I went and did some extra homework. So I got some extra stuff. We got several things to get to here. Okay, so we're going to first discuss where we are in the economy, and we're going to look at wages. And man, I got so much to cover. And the next segment's going to have two pieces of it. We'll get to the turnover, but we're going to have to talk about several things here. So, I'm just catching up. Here we go. Ready? I'm going fast. All right. U.S. employers added 142,000 jobs in our latest job report. That is an increase from 89,000 jobs the previous month. Unemployment rate dipped to 4.2%. It was 4.3 in July, so we're about a month behind here. Hiring last month was concentrated in hospitality, adding 34,000 jobs, healthcare, 31,000 jobs, and construction, 34,000 jobs, while factories and retailers cut jobs. Average wages in August. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to save that for a minute. Because there's just two wage things we need to look at. Up for some, down for others. We'll get to that. The dip in unemployment rate suggests that the Fed, who is committed to cutting rates, we know they're committed to that. It's not a guess anymore. The Fed chair came out and said, Jerome Powell said that we are definitely going to have to cut. The question is, how much? And we'll find out shortly. But a quarter point is what many are guessing. Okay. So when we look at where we are right now, the Fed doesn't want to see unemployment go up. They now want it to hover or go down a little bit. There's no question that we're seeing the hiring market cool. People aren't hiring as much. All right, now let's look at this. I told you I want to talk about wage growth. You're going to see in the news that wage growth is up. And holding in my hands here that the average wages in August were up 3.8% from a year ago. So year over year, August to August, wages are up. Now you got to be careful of that because when wages go up many times, it'll cause inflation. Right now it's outpacing inflation. That's a good sign. But you remember the Great Resignation when everybody was leaving to get a raise? Those days are long over. Here we go. Inflation for new hires, if you adjust for inflation, the wages for new hires fell 1.5% over the last 12 months, from $23.85 an hour to $23.51 an hour. That doesn't seem like a lot, but that's the largest such decline in a decade. So this is for new hires. So people leaving an organization or for those coming right out of college is what we're talking about. That's not necessarily good at all. So average wages are dropping for new hires. That tells me, an economist, that you've got a very cool hiring market. Everybody's contracting, waiting to see what happens. Presidential election. Are we going to see a soft landing? Because what everybody's waiting to see is, are we headed into a recession or not? Right now, nobody really knows. Some predict yes. Most people that are watching the stock market right now are going, I think we got a soft landing. In other words, we come off of all these rate hikes. We lower the interest rates, which we know is going to happen, and then we land softly. We don't have a recession. We'll see. Nobody knows. But normally when the economy is accelerating, pay increases for new hires tend to outstrip those of existing employees, as I mentioned in the Great Resignation. So when the economy slows, as it's doing now, that flips. And we're seeing in the data that new hires aren't making as much. Okay. All right, so that's something to be paying attention to. Now, a quick pause. we still are at a very low unemployment rate, 4.2% unemployment. Historically, really, really low. Not at all-time historic low, but still really, really low. We're coming into a presidential election. We now have the Fed, after raising rates for a while, holding rates for a few months, and now saying definitely going to be a cut. How many cuts before the end of 2024? We don't know. We do know that the next meeting, and so we're looking at going into October with some type of a cut. What will that do for the economy? Now, the answer is we don't know. But don't assume that all of a sudden that the hiring market is going to just heat up. We may see going into 2025 a contraction of hiring even more than it is now. So a lot of companies are sitting pat. The second thing we might see is if we go into a small recession, you might see layoffs. I just think everybody, these major companies, like a lot of small businesses are all kind of, let's wait and see what happens. Okay. I've said before that who wins the presidency doesn't affect your day in, day out life as much as you think it does, and it doesn't. However, policies do affect the hiring economy. So I'm saying all this to say, I think that the smart play is, unless you have an absolute golden guaranteed opportunity on the horizon, I'd be looking to stay put. In other words, I wouldn't just move right now and go, well, I'm going to walk and I'm going to see what the job market has. I wouldn't do that. And unless you know that it is a great opportunity and it has a very low risk, I wouldn't move, because that very job that you take over the next 3 to 6 months could be in jeopardy. The economy right now still has these weird ups and weird downs. And so with a cooling job market, and I'm telling you folks, if you don't get it, we have cooled off big time. I wouldn't take a flyer on a company or a job that doesn't look very stable. That would be my advice. All right, let's keep going. A lot to cover here. All right, here we go. I want to talk about employee turnover because there's so much to get to. I teased that we're going to do some in this segment and then some in the next segment, because this is all connected. Gallup's latest poll in May shows that half of U.S. employees, 51%, are watching or actively seeking a new job. That's why I just gave the warning I just gave. Because if you're part of that 51%, I'd be really, really careful. Gallup estimates that the replacement of leaders and managers costs around 200% of their salary. The replacement of professionals in technical roles is 80% of their salary, and frontline employees, 40% of their salary. Okay? Now, this is to leaders. Leaders, this is what you're facing. Okay? You are facing a job market where people are they're not happy, they're looking. 42% of employees who voluntarily left their organization in the past year report that their manager or organization could have done something to prevent them from leaving their job. Did you hear that? 42% of employees, leaders, said that their manager representing the organization could have done something to get them to stay. Here are some of the findings from the study on what people said. 77% of those who left voluntarily left within 3 months of searching for a new job. Just 3 months. So there's a pattern here. It's not like they stewed on it for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. Within 3 months of just starting to kick the tires, 77% left. 36% of voluntary leavers report they did not talk to anyone before they made their decision to resign. This is isolation on this particular topic. They're keeping it to themselves. They're not telling their leader. They're not even telling their coworker. They're looking, and now they leave. 40% of those who discussed their intention to leave did not talk to their direct supervisor or manager before deciding to leave. I'm building to something here. 45% of voluntary leavers report that neither a manager nor another leader proactively discussed their job satisfaction, their performance, or their future with the organization within the 3 months before they left. In other words, a huge chunk of voluntary leavers say their departure could have been prevented. So we pause here. Quick break. When I come back, leaders, how do you reduce this employee turnover? It's doable. I'm going to tell you how. Hey folks, I want to tell you about Aiden. He started at Bethel Tech 2 weeks after graduating high school, and less than a year later, he's 19 and working as a full-stack software developer. He loved the idea of being able to work at his own pace, but what he really thought was cool was Bethel Tech's faith-based learning environment and being with classmates who had a similar worldview. Now, if this is you, or if you have a son or a daughter that's looking for the next step out of high school, and they may be tech-minded, at least interested, you need to talk to Bethel Tech. Listen to this. Fortune Magazine named them as a top 10 best UX UI bootcamp for 2024. And right now, they're offering you 10% off because you listen and watch The Ken Coleman Show. They also allow you to pay cash, and I know you'll like that. Go to betheltech.net/Ken Coleman for details. Terms and conditions apply. All right, welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Okay, where we left off. 45% of people who voluntarily left their job said that neither a manager nor another leader proactively discussed their job satisfaction, their performance, or their future. Of those whose manager or leader did engage with them, because this is where we're going, because this is the key to stopping or to lessening employee turnover. Of those who left voluntarily, where their manager did engage with them in the 3 months before leaving, fewer than 3 in 10 had a conversation about the future of their career with the organization or their job satisfaction. They were even less likely to report that they discussed what it takes to be effective in their job or what it would take for them to stay with the organization. This isn't, leaders, listen, this isn't a big giant secret as to what's happening here. The leader is not talking to them about what matters most to them. Job satisfaction. Hey, where do I stand? Where do I stand? Am I doing a good job? Do you think I'm doing a good job? Do you value me? Do you see me? Hey, are you satisfied with your work? Are you challenged? Do you feel supported? Are you engaged? This is leader talking to the employee. Hey, here's one. What would you like to do? What does growth look like for you here? What would you like to grow into here? This is a leader can ask this question. Or, hey, we're thinking about this, and this for you. This is what we think growth looks like. So, again, this is human stuff. So, based on Gallup's study, let's look at some more specifics. Compensation and benefits are always at the top of the list and always will be at the top of the list when it comes to retention, keeping people. But it's not all that. It's not the only thing. This is really interesting stuff, leaders. Pay attention to this. According to the data, 70% of preventable leavers reported actions more directly related to how they're managed daily than talking about compensation and benefits. So compensation and benefits matter. It's really important. But in the data for Gallup, workers said it's day-to-day stuff that would keep me around. Now, before I reveal what these things are, let me explain why I think these specific day-to-day actions will keep people longer. And they said, if you address this, we're going to get to this, I'll stay. And it's not comp and it's not benefits. So why? Let me tell you why. Leaders, here's the thing you've got going for you. It's a pain in the butt for people to change jobs. It's a pain in the butt. Well, let's talk about this. Nobody really wants to change a job unless it's absolutely miserable or there's absolutely no hope of going forward. But at the end of the day, if you can give them some reasons for showing up, they're going to go, you know what? Fair compensation, fair treatment. I don't really want to have to go look for a freaking job and apply and go through the interview process and then change. Can we all be honest? Like, no, that's not like on our bingo card for things I'd like to do this month. I'd like to change jobs because it's so freaking convenient. All right. So leaders, you kind of got an advantage here. All right. Now, let me tell you what the inside scoop is. Alex, I get fired up because I don't understand why leaders don't pay attention and whether they're watching this show or not, just in general going, why are people not staying? Duh. All right, here we go. This is so simple and preventable. Ready? More positive personal interactions with their manager. 21% said, if I had more positive personal interactions with my manager, I'd be more likely to stay. Okay, great. So be positive, be nice, be supportive, tell a joke, ask them how they're doing. In other words, don't be a turd. That's one. Addressing frustrating organizational issues. 13% said that. Leaders, that means, why don't you know what your team is frustrated about? And then when you find out, you ready, Nostradamus? Do something about it. So, quick review where we're at. Be positive. Don't be a turd. Hey, when something's going on that's creating frustration, fix it. Fix it. Here's another thing, leaders. Ask the team how they'd fix it. If they're griping about it, I promise you they've thought about it. And if they've thought about it, I'll bet you they got some decent ideas. So, but leaders, they hear people griping, I got to fix something. It's all on me. It's all on me. No, it isn't. Creating opportunities for career advancement. 11% said if they would just create opportunities for career advancement or show me that there might be a ladder, then I would stay. Okay, leaders, I'm trying to keep this simple. You know what that means? Show them a path to progress. Show them a path for growth. If you don't have one, figure it out because you're going to lose them. And then the final one, these are the four outside of compensation and benefits. 9% said improving workload concerns. So this means, again, paying attention and seeing where they're stressed out and too much workload, and let's find a way. If it's not important, delegate it to somebody else or remove it or hire for it. Everything's not as important as everything else. Leaders, everything that someone's doing, at some point, if you were to look at it and you had half a brain and used any sense at all, you'd go, well, this is more important than this. And so if they're overloaded, I should probably remove this, huh? Again, I know this is Einstein level stuff. This is mind-blowingly hard to understand. I know, and I'm going to try to keep it bottom shelf. Quick review. Leaders, beyond compensation and benefits, the top 4 reasons why people leave, and all of this is preventable, is they want more positive interactions with you. So be a coach, be kind, be communicative, don't leave them hanging. Frustrating organizational issues that aren't fixed. Hey, get your head on the ground. Get your ear to the ground, talking to people, get in the middle of it. Creating opportunities for growth. You got to know where people want to grow. You got to know where they want to go if you're going to come up with a plan for them to grow and create a ladder. And then finally, workload concerns. All of this, folks, is preventable. if the leader is paying attention. If somebody young comes to me from now on, Alex, if some young leader comes to me or emails me, I get it online or whatever, I'm going to look at him and go, you know what your number one leadership role is? To pay attention. Pay attention. All of these things, by the way, become really, really obvious, and the fixes are obvious if you pay attention. Pay attention. My teacher used to say that to me all the time in class. Pay attention, Coleman, because I was sitting in there probably doing this number, gazing off it. Look, a leader who is paying attention sees all of this stuff. Oh, by the way, not only do you see, you fix it. I love football. I'm going to give you a sports analogy. Leaders, listen to me. Good coaches make adjustments in the middle of the game because they're watching the game just like me at home. Now, Bob, I'm no football coach, but I can tell you something. I can watch football game, and because I'm watching, I'm paying attention. I didn't pay attention in class, Alex, but I pay attention to a football game. And I can watch it, and I can go, there's a problem right there. That's where the problem is, and I'm not an expert. I don't know X's and O's big time. I'm no football strategist. Nobody'd hire me to coach their team, but I'm telling you, if I pay attention, I can see where the problem is. And leaders, you don't have to be a world-renowned strategist. You just have to pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention. And that's half the battle in leading effectively. So, is it doable? Yes. I'm going to leave you with this. Here are three little quotes I'm pulling out of this study that people shared. And it illustrates everything I've been discussing. These are from real people who left their company. 3 quotes. Recognize my contributions to the team by matching my salary and title with those of my coworkers doing the same work. This is what they're saying. This could have contributed them to staying if you would just recognize my contributions to the team. Number 2, if you treated me with respect and showed concern for my well-being. Number 3, if you allowed me autonomy to do my job. Pay attention, leaders. This isn't that difficult. Pay attention. Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Time to coach you up. Before we do that, just a quick reminder, if you're enjoying the show and it's helping you out, help us. If you're watching on YouTube, just like the video you're watching with a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and share. And then if you're listening via your favorite podcast app, give us a follow, a 5-star review, and share as well. Daniel is going to get us going here on our coaching session. He's in Denver, Colorado. Daniel, how can I help today?
Hey, Ken, thanks for taking my call.
You bet. What's going on?
My overall question is I am not sure if I am burnt out or if I should just completely switch and do a career change here. Backstory, I've had about 5-ish years in accounting. I don't feel like I've done very great work in it. I couldn't keep up, and I feel like I kind of crashed and burned at my last job. Was caught up in a layoff a couple months ago, and I'm thinking about pivoting into finance. I'm not feeling super confident about being able to meet the requirements, and I don't have a ton of references. So overall, I feel kind of jaded and feel like I've developed a bad attitude and wonder if it's time to just go full 180 in a different direction here.
Feels like that to me, based on the way you just laid that out. I thought you laid it out really well. I think you're being pretty honest with me. And so it tells me that there's just not a direction that you have been. Let me put it this way. There's not a direction forward based on the lanes you've been in up to this point, and that's why you're jaded. It's kind of like, really? I got to eat another rice cake? You know?
Yeah.
That's my best. You're laughing, so I think we hit the nerve there, right? It's kind of like, who gets excited about rice cakes? I know I don't. And so you're kind of like, I've had that before, and it just wasn't good. Is that about right? Am I getting it?
Yeah, that sums it up pretty well.
Well, then there's no question. If I run into somebody like that, it's like, okay, what's chocolate cake for you, man? Right? Like, what's that work that you're wired to do? that you're really good at. You really enjoy it when you're in the middle of it, and it creates a result that you actually care about. And that's my entire methodology. And I don't think you've ever experienced that. Would that be true?
Yeah. I think I've had flashes of it throughout my career, but nothing.
Take me back to the flash.
Sustained.
Okay, good. Take me back to the flashes. What was going on? What was the work?
Just kind of working on outside data, I guess visualization, using the data from accounting and building that into a report, and just finding different creative solutions through Excel in order to make that happen. I did really enjoy that work, and since being laid off, I've taken a couple of courses on it. But I do feel like that kind of blends into the finance pivot, and the more I look at the job descriptions, the more I think I don't know if I could really handle that. But one thing I have been looking at is like a radiation tech school. And maybe just being out of an office might help.
Although before we get to radiation, and I like that, before we get to radiation tech, it feels like where this thing starts to go off for you in a negative way is when we start getting into the numbers part of it. But it feels like the part that you described to me was an analytic type, data analytics. It feels like it's got what I heard in there was a little bit of analysis, but then a little bit of creativity to kind of project and maybe go, okay, based on this, I think it felt like it had some of that. It wasn't straight analytics. There was something else there. Is that true?
Yeah.
How would you describe that? What's that combo? So I'm analyzing and then I'm what?
Visualizing and explaining and
yeah. So let me ask you this.
Somebody.
So that doesn't always, in fact, I think if you're having to do that with numbers, I think there's something off there. That's just not your game. Am I right?
Yeah.
Well, give me something. Okay, but give me something that you would analyze and then make suggestions based on that your brain wouldn't, lock up on you or glaze over.
I think looking at business processes is kind of a weird niche, I guess. But,
it's actually not. When I start thinking about people that are analyzing how processes could be better, I mean, you could be a project manager. You could be somebody who is in the operations sides of things, like it's just all about business ops. But see, that's not numbers. That's more efficiencies and processes like, okay, here's what we saw. When we used this process, our production was down by 37%. That number doesn't bother you because you're not in the accounting side of things. You're actually looking at operations. I think that's an interesting play for you. I don't know that you've done a lot of that. True or false?
Yeah, that's true. I haven't really been in that world. But
it feels like there's some transferable skill and experience in your past, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's go to the medical. Let's go to the technician side. But I just wanted to spend a little bit of time to go. If I were to put you in a role where you're analyzing and making suggestions and things of that nature, and it's not a bunch of number crunching, I think you're loving that. So just consider that. Now let's go to what did you say? The radiologist or no? It's a X-ray tech. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. You think what makes you think that that's going to be something that you're good at, something that you enjoy, and something that creates a result that you care about?
Yeah, I think the last thing you said is the result you care about is a lot more something I would enjoy out of rather than here's a report. But I think working with a different person, every hour you're bringing in somebody new and kind of walking them through something that's pretty scary for them.
I love this.
Or, you're just dealing with maybe their worst day.
I love it. But you know what's coming out right now? There's a big people part of you. I think people and process is your combo. People work and process work. In fact, it's process work on behalf of people. That's what I think. How's that hit you?
Yeah, that feels exciting.
Yeah. All right. So here's one other thing I want you to do before you make a decision on this. And I write about this in the proximity principle. I want you to find somebody. Let's do two somebodies. I think two somebodies who actually do this work. Can you do that?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. And I want you to ask them. Now, because it's medical in nature, you may not be allowed to shadow them, but I'd certainly ask because it's a straightforward answer. If it's allowed legally or from a procedure standpoint, then they'll say yes. But I would ask if you could shadow them. If you can't shadow them, you take them to lunch. And I mean, you literally reduce it down to a 6th grade term paper. And you ask them every question you would need to get an answer to write a term paper on what they do every day.
Okay.
And you see why I'm saying that? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
I want you to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I want you getting more than one person for feedback because you could find somebody who's got a bad attitude and they could sour you on this position. And they may not be happy in it, but you'd be thrilled in it. So you got to stick to questions that are not about their emotions, but just, okay, what do you do day in and day out? What do you spend the most of your time doing? Right? And what's the most difficult thing? And so you need to get a good snapshot of what this looks like. And I think it's as simple as you get all that feedback on what their day looks like. And then I want you to go do your homework on the training. How much is that going to cost? How long will it take? By the way, nobody cares where you get the training, so don't go for the champagne version of the training when the beer version will do. You with me?
Yeah.
And so that's going to get you to the point of, okay, where's my heart on this? And if the heart is going ding, 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 in that we know we can get it done and we know that we'll enjoy doing it, now all of a sudden it's game on. Let's go. And don't overthink it at that point. So that's your homework assignment. And by the way, I would come back to my original coaching on the first issue and don't quit on this process work. So look at the tech, the X-ray tech, look at that. But also look at other jobs now that are not accountant related, but are process related and operations related. I think you might find some good stuff there as well. So you're a good man. I really appreciate the call, Daniel. I don't think you're far off, but yes, it's time to get out of the field you've been in. No need to ever go back. We got enough evidence.
Thanks for listening to The Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.